Từ Việt Nam, chúng tôi đem đến cho các bạn góc nhìn sâu sắc về một trong những thị trường tài chính tiềm năng hấp dẫn nhất thế giới, mang đặc tính nhiều biến động của một thị trường đang phát triển. Thị trường tài chính Việt Nam có những cơ hội và rủi ro gì? Hãy cùng chúng tôi khám phá trong chương trình Việt Nam Street Insider. Welcome back to Vietnam Street Insider. I am Phương Thảo and our guest today is Mr. Chad Ovel, the partner in Mekong Capital. I guess the reason that you choose the consumer-driven businesses is because the big population, the growing population in Vietnam, and the increasing income. Did I name anything? I didn't name anything.
No, that's exactly the reason why we're choosing the consumer sectors. But I think there's one other element, which is, Vietnam is not going from $500 GDP per capita to 2,000. That happened 20 years ago. What's happening today is we're going from $4,000 GDP per capita to 8,000 over the next 10 years. And that is a golden period of explosion in consumer spending. Almost every dollar increase today in salary or payroll is disposable income. Close to 98% of all Vietnamese own the homes they live in with no mortgage. So there's so much disposable wealth as incomes go up, and that goes into the economy and driving consumer businesses.
Yeah, I see a lot of room, but do you have any plan to discover other business, other sector?
Yeah, actually in our current fund, which is a 2020 vintage fund, we have been more opportunistic. For example, we made the choice to invest in an alternate protein company that's breeding black soldier flies and converting that into protein that goes into the shrimp industry and fish pond industry. So it is definitely not a traditional investment for us to invest in extremely consumer driven like education or retail. But we believe strongly there are some clearly emerging trends globally where we need to address depleting natural resources. And this is an amazing solution that the two founders came up with to breed insects to create a protein using a circular economy approach. And so it's a wonderful substitute for fish meal, which is rapidly being depleted in the oceans. So we're being more opportunistic. Aside from that, we're continuing to stay fairly focused on consumer-driven sectors, whether it's pharma or healthcare, education, consumer finance, etc.
I actually joined a black soldier fly project in my university.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it died when I cannot trace the black soldier. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to ask you about the more specific criteria when you choose if you should invest in a company or not.
Sure.
I know that you already have criteria on your website, but I want to know the specific regarding the profitability. Should the company be profitable at the time you invested or not?
Yeah. Well, historically we have been flexible on that. But currently in today's market where capital is becoming increasingly expensive and much harder to access, we are currently focused on investing in companies that are profitable. Now, that means that we're maybe missing some opportunities in younger companies that are still in the pre-profitable stage. But given where the economy is today, we've chosen to focus on companies that are already profitable. But much more important than that, I'd say the key factors we're looking at include, one, what is the founder's vision? Where does the founder want to take the business in the future? And if that vision is compelling and interesting to us, and it's a big game with a breakthrough future, and it's really pulling us into that's the immediate criteria. We're not really interested in investing our time and resources in situations or with founders that just have a very conservative growth plan. We're ready to take on big challenges and big growth. So that's the first criteria. The second criteria is that the founders and key shareholders really share the same philosophy as us in what drives business growth. We're not big believers that business growth is driven by tech excellence or strategy. We believe the key driver is people. And so we've organized our whole team and structure and practice around supporting founders to build the best teams in their sector, to transform their own leadership, because it takes very different leadership to run a company with 50 employees, 500 or 5,000, and how to also support those founders to build the leadership of their teams. And that's what we've learned over the last 20 years is really what drives success. So I guess the point I want to make is our second criteria is identifying founders where they share that same belief. So those are the two most important factors. I'd say a third key factor is proven business model. We're not a firm that is taking business model risk. There are other investors who do that very well, particularly the venture capital world. But we're more interested in investing in companies that have solid unit economics. Their business model actually works. It actually generates cash. And what we're focusing our practice on is supporting those founders to scale it, right? So how to go from 10 units working well to 1,000 units nationwide. And that's really our sweet spot, and that's where we focus.
Yeah. So what is the average growth in the consumer business right now if the company in the early stage?
Some of the companies can grow 100% per year.
Per year.
Yeah, and that's where the wheels fall off, right? If you imagine a bus or a truck going down the road, and or a business building, let's say something simple like restaurants, to go from one restaurant to 3, it's predictable. To go from 3 to 5 or 5 to 10 is predictable. But when they enter that stage of going from 10 to 100, it's a completely different realm of what's needed in terms of management team and system and process and culture. And that's really where we focus our effort, is to how to support these companies that have a great business model, great customer loyalty, an excellent brand, and really want to scale fast.
Yeah, I see a lot of foreigner investors, they invest money into the consumer because obviously it's very attractive sectors. But they, like you said, very fragmented and very competitive.
Yep. And
they all have to withdraw their capital out of that business. So can you describe more about the secret sauce that your firm has?
Yeah, it's not secret, but it's hard to execute. And we share a lot of it in our blog and on our website and the stories we share publicly. We think it's very simple, and that is supporting founders to build the best management team in their sector, and that is the pathway to taking market share. Vietnam's actually a fairly uncompetitive market in many of these fragmented sectors. Of course, if you get into the sectors that are already highly consolidated, whether it's instant noodle dominated by 5 players or electronics retail dominated by 2 players, of course those are very competitive. But when it comes to the fragmented sectors, as long as the founders are able to build the best management team in their sector, they're definitely going to take market share. But the trick is how to do that successfully. How to build a team that shares the same spirit as the founder, how to build a management team that is committed to the same principles, and how to build a team of thousands of people that all operate with the same culture and behaviors. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
And that's where we focus our time and effort.
I know that challenge because my family used to own a pony shop, a traditional pony shop, and there's a guy in charge of everything, and we cannot trust him.
Yeah.
So I don't know how FAA can, have so many shops like that landing.
Yeah, when we invested in F88, it was somewhat of a traditional Vietnamese pawn shop. At that time, what the business model looked like is people would bring in a laptop or a luxury hand phone or their motorbike, leave it there and take a loan against the collateral. And that's the traditional model in Vietnam. I think there's something like 20,000 mom and pop pawn shops in Vietnam, like your families. But the founders really wanted to unlock the potential of scaling a chain. And when we invested, they had about 8 to 10 stores. We actually closed all of them and started over from zero to rebuild from nothing. And as of last month, we're already at 800 locations.
Wow.
Yeah, nationwide.
So there are 800 guys in charge of the shop.
And it's some founders may think it's all about tech and system, but when you think about the customer's experience walking into each location, how to ensure that the customer's experience is the same, whether they shop at store 201 or store 305. And that really comes down to the leadership of the founders, the way they recruit, the way they train, and the way they build a great corporate culture that gives customers a consistent experience.
Cảm ơn quý vị đã theo dõi chương trình. Nếu quý vị có một cái câu chuyện đầu tư, xin hãy chia sẻ với Thảo ở email là thảo.t@investing.com và đừng quên bấm nút theo dõi YouTube chính thức của investing.com Việt Nam.